welcome to episode number 50. We've reached our half century at a Thai football podcast. So this week, you've got the pleasure of my company, Dale Farrington.
And me, Rob Bernard.
How's it going, Rob?
Yeah, really good, mate. Cracking day out yesterday. And very interesting week, obviously, following events online. And there's the international to look forward to on Thursday.
Yeah, there's a lot been going on again, considering it's supposedly the closed season. But we're going to hear about your trip out in a short while, and then we'll get on to other things later. But first up, we're going to start with Marco. And Marco managed to get to a Thai Women's League game this weekend, and he sent us this report from Kasem Bundit University against Chonburi.
Thai Football Podcast Match Reports.
Half-time here in the Thai Women's League One fixture between Kasem Bundit and Chonburi FC. It's currently 2-0 to Kasem Bundit University. The first goal was via a mistake from the Chonburi's defence. Ball found its way to a Kasem Bundit player 20 yards out. Goalkeeper was miles off her line and she just chipped one into the empty net. And the second goal was really well taken from Kanjanatat Pomsiri. She picked the ball up, dribbled past a couple of players and fired one into the top corner. Chonburi haven't really offered anything as an attacking threat so far. So I think it'll be a long way back for them in the second half. Kasem Bundit do look quite a strong side. That's the second time I've seen them this season. 2-0, the half-time score. Coming towards the end of the game here, and it's still 2-0 to the hosts. Chonburi haven't really been able to put together any concerted pressure in the second half. Haven't been too many chances at the other end either, but Kasem Bundit have that 2-goal cushion, as I said, and look likely to go on and win this one. I've been a bit disappointed with Chonburi, really. I thought they'd be better than this. Been a bit lacklustre, although they do have a chance now. The ball goes into the box and it's headed behind, I think, for a corner. Yep, it's a corner to Chonburi, so we'll just stay with this as they take it. The referee's had a good game today. He hasn't really taken any nonsense. There's been quite a few occasions where players have felt a touch and just stopped playing and they turn to the referee and to say, I want a foul, and he's said no, play on. He's done that 4 or 5 times, so fair play to him for that. The corner's going to come in now and headed away back to the corner taker. Another chance, take 2 on this one, left footed back into the box, and it's headed away again. But yeah, I'd say the standout player has been the number 26 for Kasem Bundit, Kanjanatat Pomsiri. I'm not sure if she's in the national team or around the national team, but I think she should be. She's got 6 goals in 9 games this season, so yeah, I think she's definitely one to watch in the future. Chonburi still on the attack. Ball is on the edge of the box. Player turns 20 number 22 into the box and it's cleared away. That's kind of the story of the day for Chonburi. Not really been able to create anything. So yeah, it looks like it's going to finish 2-0 here. If there's any other goals, you'll hear about it as Kasem Bundit come forward and the keeper's gathered it. I said I'd be back if there were any more goals, and there was one. Chonburi scored in the 92nd minute, which proved to be nothing more than a consolation goal, as they lost 2-1. The result is a real blow for their title hopes, as they are 2 points behind BG College of Asian Scholars, having played a game more, and 2 of the next 3 games for BG College of Asian Scholars are against the bottom 2 teams, who are Khon Kaen Sports School and Bangkok Sports School. So there are quite a few games to go, but it looks like it's their title to lose at this point. So that's all from me. Back to you in the studio.
Yeah, thanks, Marco, for that. Great to hear your voice again, and I hope we get a chance to catch up next Sunday. And one of my favourite venues, it's a lovely place to watch football, is Kasem Bundit, and it sounded like a pretty decent game.
It did sound a good game, and surprise result. I mean, I watched Chonburi earlier in the season. I was very impressed, and I think I said at the time that anybody who finishes above them is likely to win the league. So a great result for Kasem Bundit, and it's great to cover a bit more Thai Women's League on the show, and hopefully we'll have some more reports and features over the next couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get to a couple more CSACEC games during this close season.
Now, we've already alluded to it, but you were out on your travels again this weekend. You said last week you were going stir crazy.
I've been 2 weekends blank, so I was really ready.
And a trip to Roi Et, somewhere I've never been.
Yeah, fantastic city. I do recommend it. Not just the football. There's plenty going on up there. They've got an aquarium, big tower that's like a museum as well inside. Looks like a very vibrant nightlife as well. Quite an affluent city, I would guess. Plenty of English spoken and very good standard of English, I have to add. The centrepiece of lake in the centre of the city. And as I said, lots going on around it. I would guess it would be another Isan City that'll be even more interesting after dark.
And that's Rob on behalf of the Roi Et Tourist Board. Anyway, we're going to get back to the football, which was the main reason you went at the weekend, and the welcome return of Rob's Roving Report. Rob's Roving Report.
Yes, Dale, we're back. Rob's Roving Report is returned. Is it going to be as popular as Pang's Probing Perambulation, which is winning great acclaim by some on social media? Anyway, the reason I've travelled 3 hours with my mate John today, we're in Roi Et, another fantastic Isan City. And I tell you what, there is plenty to offer here that needs to be investigated further, quite possibly with a stopover when Sisaket play at Marasarakam. It's a good city, a tower we went up earlier. We just had a fantastic lunch at Bombay Indian Cuisine over the road, full bellies, and we're ready to head off. We're going to see the first leg of the semi-pro final between Roi Et PB United and Dome FC of Bangkok. Right, well, we've had a deafening rendition of the King's Anthem and the theme music as the teams came out. Players haven't a clue whether they were applauded on or not because nobody could hear a thing. I'm expecting a good game here. Roi Et, who progressed to this stage, having won the North East section, defeated Padru of Chow Chen Sao here a few weeks ago, and then away to Chatrakan last week. Their opponents, Dome, regular listeners to the podcast will know they were featured in the away game when they defeated Fatira United in fine style. Expecting a tough battle today between two good sides. First leg of this game, the second leg next week down in Bangkok. Well, we're 13 minutes in and Roi Et have got one up. It's been real probing stuff so far between two good sides. Now, just commenting how quickly Dome got players behind the ball, where a cross came in, the defender dealt with it terribly, headed it against the Roi Et number 16. Ball fell to the floor, it finished into the far corner, no mistake, 1-0. Yes, so half time here in Roi Et at the Provincial Stadium. Score the hosts are 1-0 up at the break. And I tell you what, they're putting on a fantastic performance. How they're only one up is a mystery. They've hit the bar, had a couple of close escapes of Dome. They'll be happy to go down the tunnel just one behind. But a lot of talk on social media about how to do things right at Thai football. And Roi Et are another club, like Marasarakam, their neighbours, and Sisaket, a couple of hours away. And we're getting things right. Obviously there'll be a T3 team next year here. And the range of food and drink outside is fantastic. Free admission this afternoon, which has obviously built the crowd. I reckon there'll be over 1,000 here, which is fantastic for semi-pro football. But believe it or not, there's one of the portable wagons here selling bacon sandwiches, burgers and hot dogs, along with all the other Thai delicacies. Western lad and his Thai wife, he's asked me where I'm going after the game and asked to chase up a bill for him. There are a few farangs around here in Roi Et, and I think this is a city that needs a little bit more discovery, which we'll maybe do next season. So at the interval here at Roi Et Provincial Stadium, it's Roi Et PB United 1, Dome 0. Well, it's 1 each here in Roi Et, and we didn't think there was any Dome fans here, but there certainly are. Listening to the din when that went in, and what a shot it was from the number 11 on the angle of the penalty area. He just let the shot go, it swerved through the air and went in off the far post. The keeper stranded. A tremendous shot. And Roi Et must be wondering how they're being dragged back level. They've dominated this game, but it's back to 1 each, all to play for. We are being treated to a classic this afternoon. 2-1 to Roi Et. Through ball, well controlled by the number 10. One touch, and then a shot bending away from the keeper all the time into the bottom corner. 2-1. It looks as though Dome were taking the initiative, but Roi Et back in front, and deservedly so on the balance of play. Well, I reckon there's probably about 15 minutes to go, and that is a massive goal that's just gone in. Hard work from the Roi Et players, forcing the pressure, dragged it back, one touch and then a shot into the corner, the keeper slightly unseen. It's going to take a lot of pulling back for Dome next week, if that's the end of the scoring today. 3-1 Roi Et, about 15 minutes to go. We're in stoppage time, and it's 4-1 Roi Et. It could have ended up 7-3, 8-4, something like that. The keepers at both ends have made great saves, some shocking defending at times. Dome falling apart the seams this last 20 minutes. Low free kick touched in at the back post has made it 4-1 here in stoppage time. And that's going to take a lot of pulling back for Dome next week. Full time Dale, 4-1. What a game of football. Free admission, excellent from both sides. What's going to happen next weekend? I predict a Roi Et. I predict a Roi Et.
That sounded fabulous, Rob. And what a great win for the home side. They must be favourites now to win that title.
I would guess so. I mean, Dome are a good side. As I said, we covered them when they were at Fatera, and the Fatera boys will tell you that how strong they are. They were just blown away yesterday. It's very early to be making predictions for next season, but Roi Et will be in the playoffs.
They're that good, are they?
Yeah, really good. And there's rumours that they're going to bolster with more signings. You're not allowed overseas players in the semi-pro league. The interest there, Dale, everybody had a Roi Et shirt on. It's got huge potential. Once they add the right players to it, as long as they look after the money and don't overspend, yeah, they'll be in the playoff next year.
That's great to hear. And another Esan club on the up. It's certainly the region, isn't it, at the moment? It seems to be where everything's happening.
If you saw my view now, looking out at the chickens and the countryside. But I know what you mean. And football is a huge focus up here. You know, people have identity with the club and pride in the city.
I think it's fabulous. I really do. And having seen it close hand a few times myself this season, it is good to witness. And let's hope that it continues and we get more clubs from the northeast climbing those leagues.
Yeah. Let's really get some of them Bangkok wannabes.
That was Rob who said that, not me. Okay, moving swiftly on. Last week, we had Gian on the show with his season roundup, and he graded all the teams in T1. Now, I had quite a lot of reaction to this, a few people who agreed with him and quite a few who vehemently disagreed with him. I'm not going to tell you which camp our next reporter falls into. You can make your mind up for yourself when you've heard him. So this is Neil, again, another regular contributor, and these are his thoughts on Ratbury's 2023-24 season.
Before I start, where was Claire and a review of this season's Ratchbury shirt? Each shirt told a story of Ratchbury Province's heritage. These shirts have been to most T1 grounds throughout the season. It was a very unique idea, yet not a single comment anywhere. Each shirt was a work of art and deserved a place in an art gallery. However, for me, the best bit about this season's shirt is they catered for big boy sizes. Okay, now down to the job in hand. This season, as with every season, started with the fixture list. This season's list was perfect for Ratchbury. We didn't meet any of the big six until match day 9. That meant a potential 8 easier games and a possible 24 points whilst bedding in our new players. Whoops, reality strikes hard. 3 defeats in the first 5 games, although we did put 6 past the team Rob forecast as a top 4 finisher. 4 points from the first 15, a disastrous start. By match day 10, we had just 10 points in the bag, with our 5 remaining games in leg 1 against 5 of the big 6. Ever the pessimist, I was predicting rock bottom by the end of leg 1. Then something I'd never seen before. I'm sure this happened many times, but a first for me. Ratchbury Football Club and 2 of their foreign players ended their contracts by mutual consent. One of the 2 was Ratchbury's main striker. However, this opened the door for Martin Najiva, who was brilliant and very quickly became T1's leading striker before he was seriously injured. Ratchbury had started playing football again. Buriram 1 point, Chiang Rai 3 points, BG Pathum nothing, Muang Thong 1 point, Port 0 points. However, this was a showcase as Madam Pang's farewell game. I don't think we were allowed to take any points in that game. 5 points out of 5 games against 5 top teams, incredible, and it kept us away from the danger zone. Then the mid-season break, which lasted forever. It felt as long as most close seasons. During this period, we learned that Martin Ajiva was lost to us for the rest of the season. We had to hope our mid-season reinforcements were up to the mark. One of our reinforcements was injured in his first game, and we didn't see him again until halfway through leg 2. Matthias Lima had a great start, scoring 5 times in his first 6 games, and Tyrone had an incredible work rate that made him feared by everybody. Leg 2 started with 7 games, avoiding the big 6. We took 16 out of the first 21 points. We were flying. We'd pulled ourselves away from a 10-team relegation battle. Of course, this is how we should have started leg 1. Then our injured newbie came back to the team, and we suddenly hit a string of negative results again, but somehow remained in 6th place week after week. Then it happened again. Another foreign player had his contract terminated early by mutual consent. But this meant we were back playing good football again, ending the season with 4 out of the last 6 points. Methinks an important lesson to be learned here about foreign recruits. It was a season beset by serious injury. In fact, I've noticed a worrying tactic from one of the big 6 teams, who will remain nameless, for several seasons now. That is to take out key players as soon as possible in a game. They also desperately tried to nobble Tyrone, but he was too fast for them. However, Tyrone couldn't do it alone, and we were beaten. Such was our accumulation of injuries, it was very noticeable that we could only field 4 reserves on the bench for the final match of the season. Player-wise, Ratchbury's biggest revelation of the season was the emergence of Jonathan Kemdy. To me, Ishii's non-selection of Jonathan for the national side is a sad reflection on Ishii's own ability to do the job. Jonathan has everything. He is a great defender and has incredible enthusiasm, which rubs off on his teammates. I've never seen him give less than 125%. Any team anywhere in Asia would benefit from Jonathan's inclusion. He must have a great future ahead in Asian football, even if never selected for his country. This has been a very pleasing season for me. Had we started leg 1 as we should have, we could well have been a top 4 side. Now we look forward to next season. We already know that we've lost a few excellent players, and the rumour mill is working overtime in respect of inbound players. Personally, I tend to hibernate at this time because rumours simply wind me up. I will re-engage when facts are known.
I think, to be honest, Ratchbury are where they deserve to be. Looking at an outsider, I would say that's a decent finish for them. And I know they had a poor start, but they had a tremendous second half, didn't they? So it balanced out.
I think they did exceptionally well. Considering the close season they had, there were lots of issues, weren't there, behind the scenes, and I think, many people's favourites to go down. It's certainly a platform to build on. If they don't pull the rug on the coach again, which seems to be their forte, doesn't it? They seem to get through coaches like Yellowways. That'll go over the head of most people who weren't born in the Northwest. But yeah, it's interesting. And great to hear from Neil. He's always good value when he comes on.
He certainly is, yeah. Without putting a dampener on it, they've got to be careful that, they're obviously a very good side with some talented individuals. There'll be clubs with money go sniffing.
Anyway, someone else who was moved to contact us after Gian's report last week was Lyle. Now, Lyle's becoming a bit of a regular on the show. Rob interviewed him a few weeks ago. He sent us a couple of match reports. And yesterday, I caught up with him and we went over Nakhon Pathom United's season and his hopes and fears for next year.
A Thai Football Podcast interview.
Hello, Lyle. Welcome back to the podcast. Your second interview, I believe.
Thank you very much, Dale. Last time, I think there was a lot of rumours going around that you didn't want to talk to me, but we all knew they weren't true, don't we?
Yeah, I was genuinely unavailable that day. I wasn't hiding. So it was just to clear it up, it was in the wake of Nakhon Pathom United's victory over Chonburi, and we'd already scheduled for Rob to do the interview before that. So let's just make that perfectly clear, and I'm glad you brought that up, Lyle.
It was a fantastic away weekend, I have to say.
No, there's nothing to beat those, is there? When you go somewhere and you have a couple of days there and your team wins, I think it's probably the perfect weekend, that.
I think it was. I think it's going to be a sad loss for any visiting team not to be able to go to Chonburi this season, because obviously it's a good weekend away if you're playing them over a Saturday or a Sunday. By gum, we didn't half celebrate after that game, so I think we thought we were secure after we'd beaten you.
Which brings us nicely onto your season as a whole. What have been your thoughts of Nakhon Pathom's 23-24 season?
Obviously, 22-23, winning the league on the last game of the season. And then within a matter of days, Coach Tong decided that he would announce that he was going to BG Pathum, the Old Rabbits. So there was a lot of discord from the fans, because obviously he'd brought us up from third to second at first. He was well liked. He'd brought in some decent players. But what he had was an ethos within the team that you could see that he was the manager. It was his tactics that were being deployed on the pitch. And the whole team played like a team and played some attractive football. So, of course, it was all very, very disappointing. And then, of course, we got in Akbar. I wasn't so sure about him. He's a very quiet man on the touchline, which I don't agree with. I sit in the west stand, so I'm behind the away dugout. But I watch him from time to time, and he stands in his technical area. But it always seems to be the Thai coaches that are directing without much authority from Akbar. But let's put that to one side. Looking back, we then went to Ratchaburi. Got a win there. It was a lucky win, but it was still a win. Again, Takawito scored an absolute blinder. Went away to Prachuap. I think that was a draw. And then we had a game against Utai. Of course, Utai came up with us. Have obviously had a lot more money to spend than we have on players. And, we ground out a result against there. I think we were 1-0 down, 10 or 15 minutes to go. Leslie Attenberg popped up. So immediately we got 8 points. And we then went sort of into the doldrums a little bit. And then, of course, peaked on Christmas Eve at BG Pathum, where we beat them 2-1. 2 astonishing goals, one very, very lucky free kick, but another launch from Watnachai up to Takawito, and he just seemed to lob the keeper, and we were all in party mood. So the start of the season was more than expected. The 6-week break, I don't think it came for the right time for us with the Asia Cup. And then we sort of had the games. I kept on saying to the Thai lads that I go and follow the football with, I'd looked at the last 4 or 5 fixtures that we had. And of course, we had Buriram, we had Bangkok United, and we had BG, and Mung Tong as well. And I said to them, we need to get points on the table now, because I said, I can't see us staying up if we don't get the wins. And of course, lo and behold, we just kept on drawing. Thankfully, those draws were priceless, because when you look at the end of the table, yes, we finished 13th, 33 points. And then you look at Utai, they finished 7th, 35 points. So it's been a happy season for us. I don't think that anybody thought that we would do any better than that. With the running that we had at the end of the season, it was no surprise that we did drop down. But I think over the course of the season, I think we were there 8th, 9th, 10th until probably the last 3 games of the season. So I've enjoyed it. But I think now the issue is what's going to happen next.
Before the season started, what did you expect to happen? What would you have been happy with having come up from T2?
I expected a lot more, especially away games, where we were all coming back in the bus thinking this is going to be a bloody awful season. But it didn't turn out that way. Those fans that can see what's happening on the pitch, we played with a system that suited the players that we had, and we were fortunate enough, and we might come on to this in a minute, we've never had an out-and-out striker at all, I don't think, at Nakhon Pathom. But Leslie, he just turned back the clock. He's playing in midfield, but he was given the opportunity with Natanan sitting back and playing more as a holding fielder to get forward. And by Christ, he can finish. Our top scorer, 10 goals from midfield. I'd sign him for Middlesbrough tomorrow if he can get 10 goals out of midfielder. It was fantastic. So expectations, Dale, I don't think anybody thought that we would win so many games. And talking to the lads, once we got past 30 points, they said, 30 points. Normally you'll stay up. But you could throw a blanket over from 8th down to 16th for most of the season. And it was all very nip and tuck. But I've heard people say that, everybody had us down, definitely going down. But we have played some decent football. Not the best, but when you consider the budget that we've got, and that's next to nothing, we probably punched above our weight. I think Jem gave us a rating of A, and I think we were the only team out of 16 that he gave an A to. And I sent him a message saying, you've set too high a benchmark for us. Because I don't think people realise that it's supposed to be a wealthy area, Necompeton. We've now got a central. So,
Yeah,
but
that's always a sign, isn't it? When a central arrives in your town, that shows that you've.
It is, and then people look at me at the cheese counter thinking, how can he pay 300 baht for a slab of cheese? But it's hard for me to sum it up, because the core fans that I knock around with, they honestly believed that had this team, with the additions that we got, and I have to say there weren't many additions. Durasimi, who actually did flourish. He started off very poorly, but he flourished. Natanan has just gone from strength to strength, and I knew a little bit about him, hearing from mates that he'd been out to QPR. I'm not being disrespectful; he's a streak of piss, but what a bloody engine, and what a holding midfielder. But for me, under Coach Tong in the second division, he was allowed to move forward, and he had the ability to do that. And clearly, this season, his position was holding midfielder, and that's all I want you to do. And very rarely, in fact, he scored one goal. We were away at Police, got a 1-1 draw, didn't we? And he had a nice little header. But yeah, I think we've overachieved. And I think the worrying thing for me, and I think now for a lot of the fans in the chit chat over the last 5 or 6 days, is the amount of outgoings. I mean, I can reel them off now. I actually wrote them down. So we've got the expats, such Keeney, what a loss. We've got Attenberg, obviously. We don't know what about Leslie. Evandro's definitely going. Durasimi, we don't know. And then the Thailands, Pirania, Japania, Notankau, Nutty, Natanan, Shajampon, Sasanapong. There's 9 players that have definitely gone. And then another 3 that we don't know what's going on. That's a team, isn't it?
It is quite common in Thai football. You do see a lot of clubs move players on and bring players in to this extent during the close season. But I think we were having a chat before we came on, and you were saying that Akbar wanted to bring in his own players now, and he's getting rid of all the players that were there before him. So do you think he's got players identified who he'd like to bring in, or types of players that he'd like to bring in?
One would hope he has. He's a very bright bloke. He's got a doctorship or something like that. He's a bright bloke. I understand that when he was up at Udon Thani, he was working behind the scenes and looking for players and creating some sort of academy. I just actually read today that we've got our eye on some lad that plays for Chiang Rai. Is it Filipovic? And I looked at his stats and I thought, well, why do we want him? Loaned out from BG, he's played 59 games for Chiang Rai and scored 7. Is it because we have signed Taku? He's come out and he said he's signed a new contract and we're going to try and whip the ball in. But I mean, everybody knows what's going to happen. But yeah, you're right. Akbar, the rumours have it that he said, I don't want to play football to survive. I want to challenge. I fell off my chair because having read the article that you'd mentioned to Rob about the gentleman that was looking to buy a Thai football team, I know that our total attendance for this season is 40,001, which makes an average of 2,668 per game, which, if you average out at 150 baht per ticket, and forgetting about the kids they're getting for free, it's about 6 million baht. And I'm hearing rumours that players have left us, quality players, I'm not going to mention names, but quality players on 30,000 a month are going to our opposition for 120. And I cannot see how you can bring in better players than the ones we're releasing who clearly can play in the T1 without more than 6 million baht. And I will scratch my head for quite a long time trying to work that one out.
Yeah, it's a big issue at the moment, isn't it? A lot of clubs, certainly in T2 level, are struggling. We've had lots of cases of teams who haven't been paying salaries. So this is something that clubs have got to take into account. And like you say, it's going to be difficult to bring quality players in and not pay them as much as the players you've let go. So whether there's something going on behind the scenes, whether there's a big plan there, you don't know. We can only speculate, can't we, on that?
You think about it, and football's football wherever you are. And, I would always say to any player who is playing in this league and they get offered 3 times, 4 times the salary, bloody go. Life's too short. This is what you like doing. That's your career. You can't be a player that says, oh, but I love it here. Not on 30,000 baht a month. It's a small world here. And people will be thinking, why would I want to go to Necompeton United when I know that players from Necompeton United are going to other teams with money and getting a bigger salary? I can't work it out. I mean, I don't know. As I say, I just saw this before we started our chat this evening. But this fella, he's 6'5". You know, unless he's got feet like Peter Crouch, I don't know why we're even looking at him. But of course, it's a rumour. We don't know.
Or maybe Akbar's seen something in him that no one else has seen. Bearing all that in mind, what are your realistic expectations for next season then?
I feel that it's too early to ask me that question when the season's only been a week finished. So you should ask me in about 2 months' time when I've seen who we've signed. But I can't for the life of me see how we can get rid of 9 players that I know of, plus 3 others that are hanging around. I can't see how you can replace them unless Akbar and his management team and the owners have been identifying players. I mean, I think we all watched that. It was 0-0, that playoff game last week. But Nakonsi, there were some cracking players on show that day. But will they come to us? Because we all know Coach Tong's gone there now. And he knows a lot about the Tom United than you and I do. And he might be saying, well, they've given you an offer, but you don't want to go because I'm going to get you up. And I can get you up. Very difficult. Ask me in 2 months' time, Dale, and I might have an answer.
That's fair enough. We'll come back to that. So just before we finish, now, it's been great having you on the podcast the last few weeks. Obviously, you did the interview with Rob. You've sent in a couple of match reports. You're relatively new to Thai football, and your enthusiasm is something that shines through. Over the years, I've seen lots of people who've got into the local game and then they've just sort of lost interest or fallen away. What is the key to your enthusiasm, Lyle? What is it about Thai football that gets you so excited? And do you ever see a point where something will put you off the game?
I'm a Middlesbrough fan, and growing up in the 80s, it really wasn't fun, and we nearly went into liquidation, and then of course from liquidation we went from 3rd to 2nd to the 1st division. But I've always had the enthusiasm for the game. It's the camaraderie, Dale. It's going to the games and meeting fans who truly support the club. I'd said to my missus, who loves the football, you don't know and understand fans until you've been to a away game. And her first away game was Buriram. We lost 4-1, and she turned around to me and she said, you're right. But it's the people, Dale. You've been in Thailand for a long time. I've been in Thailand since 2008, and I would say that I've been here a long time. If you don't get on with the people, you don't enjoy yourself. And we all find things very frustrating in Thailand because it's very, very different. But the longer you get here, the longer you appreciate the nuances of day-to-day life and how things work and the way people talk and the way people are very up and down and what have you. I just love it. It is just a quality day out. I've been twiddling my thumbs. I've been busy at work, but I've been twiddling my thumbs this weekend thinking, well, I suppose it's only another 4 days until we got the Thai game against the Chinese. If you're a proper football fan, and Rob says this as well, I've never been entertained at a game. Never. For a start, you can sup a pint. We can't at Port, but we managed to get a few cheeky ones in there. You can sup a pint, and the quality of football ain't that bad. And if you're a true fan, you sing your heart out for the lads. And you can't take that away from a football supporter. It's in the blood. And whatever you try and say to other people, why don't you come more often? Or why don't you go to the away games if you're going to home games? I don't know. It's sort of, it's in you, isn't it? If you get in with the right people, it's just a right good day out. I mean, I love going to different places. I must admit, I'm not a big fan of going to temples, but I do. I go along because all the lads just want to visit the temples. God knows what they're praying for, probably 3 points. But it's always been my way of life, Dale. Football. Supporting a team like the Tom United, it just reminds me of being the underdog, going to most matches. I looked around at Port last game of the season and there's a lot of foreigners there, but I think I'm the only foreigner that goes to the away games for the Tom United. And I don't know, it's just because I love it.
And long may it continue, mate. Well, thanks for coming on again. Really appreciate it. Hope things aren't too traumatic over the close season, and all the best to Nakhon Pathom United next year. But we'll definitely have you on before the start of the 24-25 season.
Dale, thank you very much indeed. Keep up the good work and hope to speak to you soon. Take care.
Yeah, cheers, Lyle. And I tell you what, it's good to hear complete honesty and realism and enthusiasm, of course. I mean, that was a great question at the end, if you don't mind me saying, Dale, about the enthusiasm and what keeps him going and everything. It could have been me answering that. It echoes a lot of my thoughts. Very realistic about the dangers. I mean, I heard a rumour last night that Ceesacet's star player last year was on 60,000.
That's a lot of money, isn't it? Especially at that level.
It makes it very difficult, doesn't it, for clubs higher up who are paying 30 and 40.
And it's something that club owners have got to take into account, isn't it? As I said in the interview, we're seeing a lot of clubs in trouble, salaries not being paid, etc. What's the answer, Rob? You know, what do these owners get out of Thai football, do you think?
I don't know. It can't be a lot more than ego, can it, really? They're not going to make any money out of the money we're paying over the turnstile. I don't honestly know how you balance it. I mean, my answer would be, just be honest with the supporters, but that doesn't fit in with culture here, does it? I don't mean that in a nasty way, but, you know, it means losing face if you haven't got as much as a competitor. Plus, there's always the question of who's funding it.
I think as well at the top level, when you've got one club who are, and again, I'm choosing my words carefully because we get picked up on saying things like this, but one club who are so far ahead in a lot of ways, is it worth these other clubs trying to compete?
No, I wouldn't, no. I mean, let's be honest, the competition, really, I think it's a battle for second place. And then you've got the rest of them. You know, it's not just like the Premier League, to be fair, back in England, but I'm sorry, I just can't see how people are going to catch up with Buriram.
I think a better comparison would be the Scottish League, wouldn't it? Although there are two teams there that obviously dominate. And you often wonder, you know, what other clubs get out of it, you know, without being disrespectful. That must be so hard, week in, week out. And it's always a two-horse race, isn't it, in Scotland?
It is. That's a better example than the Premier League in England, Dale. I appreciate that, yeah. What do? You know, you got to placate the fans. If the fans see you're not interested, they don't go. You got to make it a good fans experience.
It's up to the owners, isn't it, themselves to try and work out ways to compete and to attract crowds.
It is. But do you mind if I do a little bit of role play with you here, Dale?
Oh, go on. Oh, depends, Rob.
Right, Dale. Right, Dale. I'm making you head of franchise of malls in Thailand. I bought one of the malls franchise off you. I spent a load of money and I can't pay my employees. Will you bail me out?
No, is the short answer.
Right. I've put no effort into marketing and attracting people. Will you give me a subsidy?
No again.
And I've paid the employees too much and I can't pay them this month. What do I do?
You'd have to find the money from somewhere.
Exactly. So why do we have people complaining that the FA should do exactly what you said you wouldn't do and bail teams out? It's absolutely bonkers. It's down to the owners.
You know, the clubs have got to take responsibility and the owners have got to take responsibility. They quite like the spotlight when things are going well. So they've got to come up to the plate when things aren't going so well, haven't they?
Exactly that, Dale. It is not the FA of Thailand's fault if somebody doesn't manage the club properly and doesn't manage the finances. Let's get that completely straight. And it's also important for players to make sure they're working with reputable agents and they do the research before. Because, let's be honest, it's just another profession. It's like people who come out here and TEFL teach. You know, it's like you hear some horror stories if you go to the wrong school. You've got to do your research. You know, it's horrible when players don't get paid. But, you know, they need to do a little bit in advance as well. If somebody's offering you stupid money, you've got to ask yourself why. It sounds horrible, but a lot of the players here are because they can't get gigs anywhere else because they're not very good. So if somebody's offering you stupid money, you've got to think about it, haven't you?
I think that's very important and a good point. And there are plenty of stories out there. You know, if you go online, lots and lots of stories of players who've been promised things when they've come over to not just Thailand, but Southeast Asia, and things haven't exactly worked out as they expected. But like you say, they have to take some of the responsibility for that. They have to do the research. They have to think, well, wait a minute, we've now got a slew of clubs in Thailand who aren't paying salaries. Is it likely that I'm going to be signing for one?
If I was going to work and I was unpaid, I'd be absolutely filthy angry. But you've got to consider it before you sign a contract, haven't you?
I'm not so sure if it's the case so much these days, but a lot of players 15 years ago saw Thailand as quite an easy option there were a few of us who ran independent blogs and websites for various clubs in Thailand. And one thing we all had in common was that we would constantly be getting emails from players wanting to set them up with trials for clubs. And, my stock answer was, well, I don't have any influence here. I can pass things on because I know who to contact. I can't set you up with a club or set you up with a trial. I don't know if that's still happening, but it is something that they do need to think very, very carefully about before moving here, without a doubt.
And I'm afraid the only action that the FA of Thailand can do is to revoke the licences. It's terribly sad. Nobody wants to see a club go bust or thrown out of the league. But it's got to be tough luck for these owners, or they'll just carry on doing it.
Chiang Mai, that's the situation up there is terrible, isn't it? What's happened there. And it's still unclear what's going to happen. I think the last I heard, they'd applied for a licence in T3 and that was being discussed. But again, that's a prime example, isn't it, of owners not taking responsibility.
Although there is hope, as DP Kanchanaburi have proved. It's not the end of the road, and Roi Et proved, where I visited at the weekend. But, crikey, it's terrible. It's always the fans who suffer, wherever it is in the world. That's the sad thing.
Oh, well, that's cheered everybody up, Rob.
No, sorry about that. But I can't be done with people blaming the FA of Thailand for it. It's not their fault.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I think there needs to be some kind of education for owners. They can work alongside the Thai FA, can't they? And the Thai FA and the owners can all get together and work out a strategy. As we've often said on this podcast, the current management of the Thai FA is new. So there's bound to be teething problems. And we do have to give them the opportunity to try and work things out. Now, again, this could be something they're considering, given the situation at the moment.
Something I would love to see them do is set some money aside and offer legal aid to players who aren't paid, so they can chase it up and work with FIFA properly.
Or the Players' Union. That is still apparently going. It's still there in the background, but it doesn't have any power, does it? Doesn't seem to have any presence or anything. But that's something that needs to grow as well, and that's something the FA could help with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so keen on that because suddenly the players have as much power as the owners.
Yeah, well, that's a debate for another day.
It is. But you very rarely see turkeys vote for Christmas.
Next up, we've got a little report from Michael. And recently, he went up to Buriram to stay in the hotel at the ground, and he had a look around the stadium. It was his first visit there. There wasn't a match on, but these are his impressions of his trip to the Thunder Castle.
You currently join me in a hotel room in the middle of Buriram. Yes, I managed to make the pilgrimage to the Chang Arena, the Thunder Castle, as Buriram United fans and themselves like to claim it is. As someone who proclaimed himself to be a Pattaya United fan, I make not regular trips to Buriram, but something that's going to happen more and more as my time in Thailand continues. So here I am walking around the Chang Arena yesterday, and it was quite interesting to see the support that this team has. At Buriram, everyone wears a Buriram United shirt, and I don't think there's any other city in the world where I've seen so many people wear their hometown shirt. Obviously, in Manchester, everyone's a United or City fan, but the concentration of people in this city who wear Buriram United shirts is quite amazing. As a Manchester United fan myself, it was quite amazing to see, fellow champions, fellow winners after our recent FA Cup success. So that was very nice. The fact they just have the front office door open so you can walk in and just take a photo of the league trophy that they won a couple of weeks back now. Fully enjoyed myself there, I must not lie, to the point where I may have walked into the club store and purchased 3 Buriram United shirts, one for me, one for the better half, and one we will share, which anyone who knows my partner, we're the same height, we're the same size, so that's the excuse I'm going with on that one. I know the season normally begins around about August time. That's the next scheduled time I shall be in Buriram, I believe. So I think that is going to be the first time I ever watch a Buriram United game in the Thunder Castle. Coming away from Buriram United, yes, I took the Friday night bus from Pattaya City to Buriram. It was 8 hours, I believe, but it was gold class. 450 baht, sandwich provided, water provided, snack provided, a blanket. The seats was comfortable and nice too. The aircon was absolutely killing me. There was a bathroom, which I did not use. There was no stop on the way either, but I must say it was a very pleasant ride. And I slept throughout, not most of the journey, but I did sleep for a lot of that journey. Coming back now, I'm in work on Tuesday, and everything is currently fully booked back to Pattaya. So it might be a case of me either hitchhiking to Chonburi or getting a bus to Bangkok and then trying to find my way from Bangkok to Pattaya, which won't be so difficult as I've just made it sound. But right now, I'm currently not trapped in Buriram, but I've got to think about getting back home now.
Thanks very much for that, Michael. Bit of lighter mood there. Good edition of Wish You Were Here, Dale.
I hope he got his bus all right. I've not heard from him, so I'm assuming he got back to Pattaya okay. He could still be stuck in the hotel, couldn't he?
I think he'll be all right.
Is that something you'd like to do, Rob? Stay in the hotel there?
Not desperately, no.
Fair enough. When I went up at the start of the season or earlier in the season, I stayed within walking distance of the ground, and that was enough for me. I could see the floodlights from my room.
No, to be honest, Dale, Buriram's got plenty to offer in the town. We've got a couple of options, one near the station that's good. And there's plenty of good drinking and eating establishments. I won't want to be stuck up near the stadium. Can you imagine having to go back to your room if they've absolutely gubbed your team?
I didn't have that experience, Rob. I floated back to my room. It was one of the only times this season when I've actually felt good after a game.
Well, it's something I haven't either. Have I ever told you, Dale? I've never seen Buriram win at home.
You might have mentioned it once or twice, yeah.
It'd be just my luck to be staying in the hotel when they beat Port 5-0.
To clinch the title next season.
Down at reception in the morning, all the players there. Hello, Sawadi.
Which player was that, Rob? Was that one of your impressions?
You didn't get who it was?
Was it Tiraton?
No, I didn't use any profanities.
And finally, on this 50th episode of a Thai Football Podcast, we've got a nice little feature. Chonburi FC, recently relegated to T2, have taken this opportunity to release a new club badge. Now, if you haven't seen it, I urge you to have a look at it. Or you might not want to after you've heard what our resident fashion expert Claire has to say about it.
To be honest with you, it really doesn't look any different. The shield behind, not much to say. I just hope they didn't spend a lot of money asking someone to do it for them, because it wasn't worth it. Yeah, it could do with a complete overhaul. Interestingly enough, one of my year 11s was doing sharks as her theme, and she's a graphic design student, and she designed a not very good, if I'm honest, logo for Chonburi. But to be fair, it would give that one a run for its money.
Thanks very much, Claire. Our very own Eve Pollard. How apt with Ascot coming up. I don't think it looks so bad, Dale.
I'm not a fan. I'd love us to go back to the traditional old badge.
Is that the fun-looking shark?
The angry-looking shark with the football.
He was meant to look angry, was he? He used to make me laugh.
You're not thinking of the tube of toothpaste one, are you? That's always reminded me of a tube of toothpaste, that modern shark. Not a fan at all. And I don't know why they've taken the club name off as well. I don't know if they're going to add that. I hope they are, because it does look a bit strange without the name on there.
Have you seen the league table? Maybe they didn't want to be associated.
Yeah, very likely. And rumours are that we've got FBT coming back next season to produce the kits. So there are some positives.
You happy with that, are you?
Yeah, very much, yeah. I like the FBT kits.
I thought yours was the best kit of the season. You know, the halves. I really like that.
Too much white on it, though. That big white bit at the bottom and the white bit at the top. I wasn't a fan. If it had just been 2 shades of blue, I'd have been a lot happier. Okay. Anyway, we're treading on Claire's toes here. We don't want to take a job away from her.
Certainly not.
So is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
I do, yeah. Great to see that the final dates have been resolved and the League Cup virtually a sellout in very little time. And it looks like there's going to be quite a mass gathering of Bangkok United fans the day before the FA Cup final. Yeah,
I'm glad that all got resolved. And as you say, the League Cup final is sold out. Muangthong United against BG Pathum United. The only worry I've got is I've read reports on social media and there have been a few rumours floating around that touts have been buying up the tickets, which is always a shame. I've seen 1 or 2 of the obligatory photograph of someone standing there with a fistful, looking quite smug. So I'm just hoping that all the loyal, genuine fans can get in and not be fleeced.
Yeah, as long as the loyal fans, those who would just turn up to glory hunt on the big day, I couldn't care less about, if I'm honest. But yeah, the ones who've been going every week, they deserve something at the end of the season.
And I'm glad it got resolved. I'm glad the dates have been sorted and everybody pretty much seems happy with them, don't they?
Well, as you say, Dale, it's hardly a first, is it? We've got something to look forward to after the two international.
Yes, and good luck to Thailand against China and Singapore.
Good luck to the lads. They've had plenty of prep time, so don't waste it, Ishi.
So that's all from this 50th episode of a Thai football podcast. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks to everyone who sent in contributions, and have a great week.
I might catch one or two of you in Bangkok next weekend for the second leg.